So we've got Megaman 1, the one that started it all. It really is the hard, fun, creative game. Megaman 1 came out in 1987, as you see on the screen. There wasn't really any game really like it. You know, it's kind of showed my intro, right? Some of the kind of stuff that kind of happened with Mega Man, sort of shooting straight and sort of getting the powers of the different bad guys that he beats, the different mega bosses. This one sort of set up an infrastructure. Well, it wasn't really like a big hit for a game. It was a critical hit. You know, it was one that was liked for its difficulty, artistic style, etc. Also, it sort of set the foundation for all the other Mega Man games, all the next 100 sequels that were made over the next 20 years. It was made by Capcom, who at that time they were actually sort of they were a different kind of company. They mostly made arcade games, so this was the first kind of console game they made. So it was also kind of new in that sense, you know. I mean, when you think of Capcom, you think Mega Man, but you also think of like Street Fighter and games like that, right? So let me see, time series. And so sort of the guy who was sort of famous for he's like the Shigeru Miyamoto of Mega Man games. His name's Keiji Inafune. He was the main illustrator of the game, and he sort of kept along for much of the Mega Man games. And so I'll probably mention him from time to time with what he did in the story. So, are you ready for the game? Let's do it. So, this is what the original Mega Man game looked like. As you see, it doesn't look anything like Mega Man. He's not wearing blue underwear. He has a handgun. He looks kind of middle-aged. There was just like a little something, you know, Capcom is a Japanese company, right, like Nintendo, and that it just, you know, something got sort of lost in translation. Particularly, you know, if you notice, it does say high-resolution graphics for 8-bit time. You know, it was just interesting. But once you got started, game rocks. So, our main characters. We've got Rock. Let me turn this music down just a little bit. So we've got Rock, who sort of was the assistant guy, and Roll, who was the housekeeper. It was kind of the cool girl. They were actually created by Dr. Light, not by Dr. Wily or anything like that. They're created by Dr. Light, who was this nice guy right here. Dr. Light was inventor to the world. He invented all these different robots. They used them to kind of save the world. You know, like ice robots to kind of do stuff, construction robot, robots with all sorts of different powers that could sort of make the world better. Unfortunately, we also have Dr. Wily right here. Dr. Wily kidnapped all the ones that he thought were like the powerful robots. You know, we got Cutman. Cutman looks pretty cool right here, where they're like holding it like Switchblade style. It was the 80s. Elec Man, easily the most feared of Mega Man bad guys you probably ever fought. He just brutalizes you pretty quickly. Dr. Wily took all them, but he left Rock and Roll because he just didn't think they were really useful, right? One was an assistant, one was a housekeeper. So, you know, instead of, well, Dr. Light giving up, he outfitted Mega Man to take up the challenge and get his battle on, playing the hero, playing you, playing me, playing Mega Man 1. So, he had to kind of go to the different levels, and he had to fight the different guys, the different bad guys. As you see here, we got Cutman, Elec Man, Iceman, Fireman, Bombman, Gutsman. Right, so Cutman, he's sort of the intro, right? He kind of looks like he even has a baby Baba look to himself a little bit in a way. And with him, he's got a little cutter on his head, and he throws his little blade. He's often the kind of intro character that people often will play. But as I said, any of these 6 characters, you can actually start playing first. You can go through a level. No level you can't beat without having the other powers. But some levels are easier with some characters' powers. Example, the next guy that often you can beat would be Elec Man, right? What Elec Man kind of does is he's got like electrical bolts that he'll shoot out, and those electrical bolts are brutal. But if you have Cutman's powers, Cutman will actually is really powerful against him. So the average guy is about 30 bars of life, as I kind of talked about in the previous session. 30 bars of life, and one little Cutman power will wipe out about a third of Elec Man's life. It helps, believe me. You hesitate for a second, and you're dead. Got a little snow level. We've got fire. Heck, you can throw bombs. Although I wish they were a little more utilitarian, those bombs. But the idea that you can throw bombs is pretty cool. And Gutsman and Cutman are probably on the Mega Man games the most often. They seem to show up a lot because you got the strong guy, you got the cut guy, right? So you got the wily, and then you got the kind of brutal. He's the one that makes the most sense as far as trying to save the world, right? Like Snowman, I can't quite figure out how Snowman interplays and how he could kind of help industry in the world. But a giant strong guy that's a robot, that makes sense to me. So, once you beat those guys, you get to Dr. Wily's robot manufacturing plant. Now, there is Dr. Wily's castle that you kind of get to later with other Mega Man games. But you got to remember that, like, in this game, at least as far as plot-wise, right, Dr. Wily had stolen Dr. Light's robots. Dr. Wily didn't actually, he maybe retrofitted them, but he hadn't actually, like, built those robots. So he had sort of a robot manufacturing plant, but he wasn't, like, quite up to this whole game yet. With that said, he definitely had some bosses, and throughout the levels, really what the second half of the game is, like, you beat the bosses, the Mega Robot Masters, and you kind of have the second half of the game, and what that is you're trying to economize the powers that you got from all the other characters in new, different ways. So, you get this first level, right? You go through the level, and you fight the Yellow Devil. This guy is impossible to beat. You kind of can't beat him without powers. What he'll do is his little eyes, his little hand just coming to grab you, is his little eye will blink open, and then it'll blink closed, and then he turns out a bunch of little blocks, and the blocks sort of fly at you, and you have to jump and dodge all the different blocks, and then his eye will blink open again, and that's the only time you can hurt him, and then it blinks closed, and then he comes with the blocks. Some of the blocks come at you in a way that's just darn cheap. It's the only instance in all of the Mega Man games I played that I cheated. I don't believe in cheated, and I really didn't cheat at all. I used the kind of the infrastructure within the game. There's kind of a known thing that happens within some old Nintendo games, that if you hit the guy in the right timing and then you press select, it'll pause the game, and then you can actually, it'll actually hit him over and over and over, and you can actually, and that'll actually kill him. And that's the only way I can figure out how to kill him, because I died like, I don't know, maybe 6 times. And yes, Mega Man is a game that you die a lot, but still, for me, 6 times was a lot. And I just had to figure it out. It wasn't cheating because, it's actually sort of, it's within the wiring of the game, right? No Game Genie or anything like that. Blaster Master, another example. You could always hit like select and it would freeze and it would zap the bad guys. Just good tips. So, next boss, we've got the copy robot, right? Basically, you fight Mega Man neck to neck. When Mega Man fires cut powers, this guy fires cut powers, right? So you kind of do that mono-a-mono thing. Once again, a theme that is established within Mega Man 1 that sets the standard for all the other Mega Mans. Then we have the copy robot, the Dr. Wily machine, number 1. Dr. Wily machines sort of show up in all the different, most of the Wily games. I think Wily pretty much shows up in almost every game. And per se have to, but he shows up in pretty much all of them. This is like the first one. This one was pretty difficult. It sort of shoots out its little cannon, and you sort of have to come underneath it and kind of fire at it. I don't know. I guess it was easy. I'm looking at my notes, and I'm remembering playing a little while ago, and I guess I could say it was actually kind of easy. So I guess it was easy. But I ended up beating that. And that was it. So that's Mega Man 1. Stay tuned until next time when you can see Mega Man 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I'll be going through all the different Mega Man games. Don't forget to go to Would You Like to Play a Game.tv. That's where all of these games sort of stored. Also, you can actually watch me do a little bit of gameplay of doing a little bit of Cutman, so you kind of get a little feel of what it's like. Or, I don't know, go out, find yourself a Nintendo, find yourself that game, or figure out whatever is necessary. to enjoy this classic video game experience.